My former high school students are just useful for picking up trash. The management said the worst. I sweat in the morning while putting out the trash, and he belittles me mercilessly. It proved to be a mistake, my rare trash duty. Do you currently work as a janitor? Simply rush home after doing the unpleasant chores? I interpreted it as a sarcastic hit from a longtime adversary, but it appears that management has forgotten who I am. That merely aggravates me further. How could someone who graduated from Harvard forget the people they harmed? I decided to convey the facts to this egotistical management. You're fired. The manager's countenance froze when I said those words because he was taken aback by the abrupt change in tone. He was too stunned to protest. Nothing could have diminished the manager's dignity more than hearing from someone. He often said that he wasn't needed in front of me. I could see the manager's face becoming quite crimson. I overcame my insecurities that day. I am Jackson. I am 52 years old and work as a janitor at my brother's workplace. I am merely a cleaning lady. I never finished high school and have never had a full-time job. Despite his uselessness, my brother Robert welcomed me with open arms. We've been together since we were little. Our wealthy, financially comfortable parents spent a lot of money to ensure we had a pleasant childhood. Robert met their expectations. While I struggled in school and on the sports field. My parents' aspirations eventually shifted to Robert, and I was all but forgotten. Even though Robert was encouraging and courteous, I found that embarrassing. You move at your own pace. Don't stress over it. I never witnessed any development. Even with tutors and extracurricular activities, I was too frustrated to accept what my brother had stated. I realized I'd never be able to match Robert. I dropped out of middle school after giving up on studying. My brother attended a prestigious institution and built an impressive academic record over time. But I had no success in the job market. An employer would never hire a high school dropout. It was awful to be a shut-in at home and hear about my brother's triumphs. I started to regret my existence. When I was in my 40s, our parents passed away from sickness. My brother offered to hire me as a janitor at his firm. If you're cool with it, why don't you try working here? My brother, who is still quite kind, offered to help because he was concerned about the health consequences of my being stuck at home. I accepted being delighted and frustrated at the same time. I reasoned that it was preferable than doing nothing. Our parents passed gone. But when I joined, I was plunged into an unexpected inferno. My brother's company sells cars. Cleaning the office and automobile storage areas is part of the job description to assist me. My brother hired me without disclosing our relationship. I was just getting used to the job when something really threw me off. As usual, I was cleaning the desks in the office when a woman approached me unexpectedly. The place you clean has a horrible odor. Could you kindly stop working so shoddily? The abrupt critique took me aback. I felt mortified and apologized immediately away. However, the woman continued to be menacing. I do not want an apology. Please cease cleaning my desk and avoid any areas that our clients utilize. It will be disrespectful to the mildew. I felt like garbage being handled by this woman. I took a brief look at her name tag, which said Nancy Anderson. I kept saying sorry, not wanting to make any trouble, even though she was also the manager. Nancy dismissively waved me away. This explains why I dislike janitors. Please don't touch anything important because you can't even get rid of the smell of your old man. Her attitude was quite pompous. I managed my growing wrath and finished my daily responsibilities. She was an amazing Harvard graduate who had lately been promoted to manager, which I later confirmed with my brother. I was grateful for my employment, but I could not bear being treated like garbage. I was told I smelled bad and was clean the other day. My day was ruined by her relentless criticism, even after I'd apologized. My brother let out a deep, heavy sigh as I told him about the hard treatment once more. She is extremely talented, but she has a terrible personality condition. Her upbringing in a difficult environment has led her to reject anybody she believes is flawed. It is recommended to avoid her due to the numerous mishaps that have occurred within the business. It was clear that my brother was having difficulty and required assistance. The worst feeling is when an accomplished professional disparages you. Why did I have to put up with this abuse when I was just doing my job? Recognizing inequity. I went to work the next day. only to have the manager confront me again despite yelling at me to leave my desk. Yesterday, my trash was not picked up. Now she was complaining about the trash not being picked up. Each desk has a little trash container for small amounts of paper and rubbish. Following an incident in which critical documents were dumped into these bins, the firm determined that each employee should be accountable for their own trash. The manager, on the other hand, was furious because the trash had not been collected. Individuals are responsible for their own rubbish. I apologized profusely, not wanting to arouse any resentment, but the manager refused to back down. Rather, she increased her hostility. Have you been paid? Correct. You should give to those of us with the highest incomes. Or do you think you can handle my workload? High school dropouts should do this type of work. Dropouts should do the nasty labor. Her statements broke my heart because I had dropped out of high school myself. People in this country detest those who lack formal education or employment experience. It quotes about corporate policies, not rank or education. There was a recent incident in which vital documents were discovered in the garbage. To put an end to this, everyone must take responsibility for their own rubbish. She should be aware of this situation as a manager. She couldn't have been unconscious of it, but she began fabricating her own version of what had happened. Obviously, comma. I am aware of it. I'm not concerned if some of our employees appear to be foolish. I would never make such a mistake. Are you accusing me or what? She stared at me as if I were accusing her, and her ludicrous argument that rules did not apply to her because she did not make mistakes was amazing. What a horrible custodian. How is this filthy, useless individual permitted to work for the company? You can be fired at any time with a simple command. Obey directions without hesitation. She expressed what she wanted. I did not realize I was the CEO's brother. I'm not sure how she interpreted events to fit her story. I reluctantly agreed to pick up her trash because I realized there was no point in explaining company policies to her. When I told my brother about the incident, he appeared apologetic. I'm sorry for any trouble Nancy may be causing you. She may be purposely targeting you for vengeance. My brother expressed regret, but I felt I should have apologized first because I suspected my inability was upsetting and causing problems for him. It was quite uncomfortable for me. I began to believe that, as a recent high school dropout, it might be better for me to leave my employment at that time. My brother had a surprise proposal. It is not required for you to clean the main office right now. Consider working somewhere. We want to open a new office soon. The abruptness of a transfer astounded me. A housekeeping staff member like myself, surely this is a joke. My brother claimed there was an unusual labor shortage. Even simple things, he claimed, would be good. I had thought that my brother and other highly educated persons would be understanding until that moment. I realized from speaking with their management that this may not always be the case. My brother was so wonderful since he was my sibling. When I discovered this, I was once again grateful to him for hiring me. After 10 years, I finally made my long-awaited visit to the main office. I thought about the office and how it hadn't changed throughout the years. I quote EM in this position now because I was a janitor here. So I was bringing out the garbage and reflecting. I ran into Nancy, the notorious manager. She shouted something familiar but enraged as she observed me carrying the garbage bags. High school dropouts are only useful for taking out the trash. She was the worst speaker. I was sweating in the morning, hauling out the trash, when she brutally mocked me. It proved to be a mistake. My rare garbage duty and additional janitor simply rush home after finishing the unpleasant tasks. I assumed it was a snarky remark from a longtime rival, but the manager did not appear to recognize me. This infuriated me even more. How could someone who graduated from Harvard forget the people they harmed? I made the decision to terminate the self-centered manager. The manager's countenance froze when I said those words because he was taken aback by the abrupt change in tone. She was too stunned to resist when she was told she wasn't needed by someone she normally despised. There was nothing worse for the manager's ego in front of me. I noticed her face becoming quite crimson. Janitor. Don't become arrogant. Do you know who I am? This company hired me as a manager. I have the authority to dismiss you if I don't like you. She'd told me the same thing before. She had clearly forgotten all about me. Not only that, but she had disregarded the most recent changes to the organizational structure. I regret, But a manager lacks such authority. It's your fault. We notified everyone about this a month ago. Did you fail to verify? When I pointed out her error, the manager appeared bewildered and undisturbed by my assurance. She was shocked by my unexpected response, and drips of perspiration were falling from her brow. What do you mean? She tried not to be angry, but it was impossible to hide her composure. She probably hadn't gone over the important paperwork after all of this conversation. If she still didn't understand, I chose to give this novice manager a comprehensive explanation, stating that my brother had given me the firm a month ago so that he could focus on launching a new business. Consider starting as a janitor and eventually becoming CEO. I understand it's difficult to believe. My brother recommended it to me while I was working in the new office, and I thought it was a joke. I'm thinking about handing you full control of this business. You followed and studied my work for 10 years. Don't worry, I'll be accessible for consultation once I give it over. Besides comma, wouldn't it be amazing to disprove everyone? A CEO who dropped out of high school and achieved success may serve as an inspiration. Despite my brother's optimistic words, I was so anxious that I couldn't sleep for days. He's always been the type of person that feels compelled to complete every task at hand. He appeared to be sincerely interested in exploring his suggestion this time. I then worked for him as an assistant, gaining managerial experience. My brother handed me the reins 10 years later. Once I had completed all of the needed tasks, it looked that the manager was oblivious of the entire transition. Despite having been advised that it was a critical business issue, I have completely taken over my brother's firm. You're a manager who is ignorant that I'm the current CEO. When I mentioned this, the manager reacted with surprise. The concept that the janitor in front of her was in charge of the company she worked for was beyond her comprehension. I understood her reaction because I had felt the same way when my brother first approached me about it. You are talking falsehoods. I had no prior awareness of this. Official documents are utilized in this company to present vital information. I couldn't possibly be oblivious of it. She refused to admit any culpability in herself and accused upper management of failing to inform her. Because you were so busy, it's understandable that you didn't realize you were throwing paperwork away. She had complained to me about the trash pickup 10 years ago. I found important paperwork in her garbage can. A few days later, I was told to collect the trash. They ended up in her trash when they should have been incinerated. I passed the materials to one of her subordinates, who appeared annoyed and unwilling to become involved. It appears that she was in the habit of throwing away documents without reviewing them, and when her subordinates attempted to rescue them, she chastised them for meddling. I threw papers in the garbage. Don't act absurdly. You couldn't possibly know that. Even today, management couldn't recall that I had previously worked as a janitor here. It's sad that someone could graduate from Harvard with such a horrible memory that she didn't even try to remember the janitors' faces. She could have felt bad if she had remembered me. I do not require your belief. That is not the issue at hand. I came to you today with some extremely important news. You chastised a female coworker more than once recently, correct? She accused you of fraud and filed a complaint against you. The management froze when I mentioned fraud. Her suspicious demeanor resembled an admission of guilt. I continued conversing with the manager of No Silence, purportedly to inflate the insurance claims. You requested a mechanic to wreck cars. This is a method used by dishonest businesses. Our firm strictly prohibits this method. Can you refute this? Nancy is the manager. The amount for damaged autos varies depending on the severity of the damage. Increasing the harm may result in increased earnings for the sales company, an increasingly well-known technique. This was a practice that my brother despised and had strictly outlawed. However, given that the manager disregarded waste regulations, she plainly violated this rule. This did not surprise me. That isn't anything I would ever order. She was perspiring profusely as she continued. The employee is urgently lying to me. The manager denied the charge. The manager never acknowledged anything, regardless of how much I begged. That was approximately 10 years ago. I provided the proof since I believed it was unnecessary to spend more time listening to her poor arguments. I have evidence. Do you intend to refute? The mechanic you instructed admitted this. We have documented your conversations. I had spent a lot of time preparing for this day, knowing she would reject me. We investigated the suspected mechanic and reviewed all relevant incidences and scenarios. This is a dream, a nightmare, given how smoothly everything had gone for her up until this moment. The shock was enormous. The manager, unable to confront reality, whispered that it was a dream, a fantasy. I made cautious preparations because I had previously been wronged by her. All of this was done to exact my revenge now. You may believe that a minor company rule and a high school dropout are inconsequential, but in society, we must get along with people from various backgrounds and comply with regulations. You did not accomplish that. She shivered and fell to the ground as I showed her the first photo on my phone. I was prepared to play the recording evidence if she refused to acknowledge it. It was also told to us that they were having an affair but wanted to keep it private. The family-oriented technician was forced to engage in fraud. We quote, also aware of your relationship. The mechanic apologized for his error and said that he was inebriated with beer at the time. We will consider this malicious and report it to the police if you keep denying everything. Is this your desired outcome? When the manager felt she had no choice but to hang her head, she admitted everything. Graduating from Harvard does not imply that one will always behave ethically. The manager acknowledged everything and then confessed to the scheme. She developed the insurance fraud as a result of her interactions with the mechanic. Here I am, the victim. You are painting me as the bad guy, even though I had been deceived by the man and was desperately trying to aid the firm. Despite this, the previous manager continued to claim victimhood. However, when we dug more into the details, the truth grew increasingly unsettling. She had anticipated that everything would go as planned and had prepared to devastate the mechanic's family before marrying him. He proposed to me. I was simply following where he led me. This means that it was agreed upon. She appeared to be willing to be excused if approval was given. The person in charge didn't know how to react to her ludicrous answer. Being excessively intelligent may lead one to assume that social standards and corporate policies are restrictions. The manager faced disciplinary consequences after admitting that the prior boss's tragedy had not ended there. Her family turned out to be really loving. Following this finding, she filed for divorce and granted her ex-husband custody of their children. She was hospitalized in a psychiatric facility owing to intense emotional distress caused by a series of disasters. Although no one can predict where life will take them, one thing is certain. Everyone, regardless of intelligence, must obey the law and accept equal responsibility. In a society where everyone is treated equally under the law, education and employment history are unimportant. I feel that the ex-manager, who had always delegated responsibility, needed to experience what it was like to be in the horrible circumstances she had previously criticized. Things were stressful after dealing with the previous manager's penalties, but we made it through thanks to my brother's help. I couldn't allow my brother's business fail after he worked so hard to develop it. I worked hard to rehabilitate our reputation and regain the trust of our partners and clients. It was difficult every day. In contrast to earlier, I had never had the opportunity to shine and had only heard of my brother's exploits. This is why I enjoyed being busy. I obtained a job, assumed leadership, and accomplished results. I accepted it, even though most people would find it overwhelming. My brother thought I was even better than him, admiring my diligence. I'm glad I offered you the company. I would appreciate it if you could defend the business I started. As soon as I heard the term family, I was satisfied. The individual who had previously caused me the most concern was now praising me. It was my brother. His gratitude made me feel even better. I wanted to excel and add value, but I had suffered greatly from not being expected to do well and failing to achieve the anticipated results. I shed happy tears as years of hurt feelings appeared to pay off. I should express my gratitude to you. I quote, I'm grateful that you are my brother. We both cried like children, even though we were in our 50s. I want to carry on the business with my beloved brother. Going forward, I'm considering taking a huge step to spread my ideas and gain more visibility. Because I was rejected by society, I pledge to improve society.